The Chiefs give Travis Kelce a retirement deadline. Are the NFL changing their NFL draft rule eligibility? And Canadians are continuing to boo the National Anthem? We'll discuss. Like, comment, and subscribe on the OutKick YouTube page. It is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network on this Friday. Congratulations, everyone. You made it to the end of the week. Well done. Good job. Great week by our studio here and great week at Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer, downtown Nashville, our 6th and Peabody studios. Not a great week for Jonathan Hutton. He remains under the weather. We'll hope to be joined by Hut and on Monday, and we wish him a very speedy recovery. Big show today. We got plenty to get into in this first segment, and Kelly Stewart has gone viral with her take on the auditing of the United States government and where our tax dollars are going. And we'll get into some college basketball lines also with Kelly, but we'll discuss her viral tweet as well. That's coming up a little bit later in the show. But we begin with, well, where we started the week, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's been in the headlines this week. He looked bewildered during the Super Bowl loss to the Eagles on Sunday night. Then he was heartbroken over his love, Taylor Swift. By the way, happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. It's, I guess, a happy Valentine's Day for Travis and Taylor. They seem very much in love, so much so that Travis Kelce was heartbroken and felt helpless when poor Taylor was getting booed by Philly fans on Sunday night. And now he goes on his New Heights podcast and he says, I'm going to kick that can as long as I can down the road in regards to retirement. Says he don't want to make some crazy decision right now after that loss to Philly. But it appears that the Chiefs, they can't allow him to kick the can down the road for too long. In fact, the Chiefs have given Kelce a soft deadline of around March 14th to make a decision and inform the club. Why is March 14th important? Well, it's 2 days into NFL free agency, but also his $11.5 million roster bonus actually hits the next day on March 15th. Now, I see a story like this and I think, is it really wise to push Travis Kelce into a decision or say anything like deadline to a guy like that that's fifth all-time in tight end receiving yards, third all-time in receiving yards, fifth all-time in touchdowns, third all-time in receptions. He's a surefire future Hall of Famer. He's done so much for your organization. He's won 3 Super Bowls. He's been a Chief throughout his career. Is that how you repay him? To force him into a quick decision or give him a quote-unquote soft deadline? And the answer I keep coming back to is, yeah, I think that's just kind of how business is done. And the sword cuts both ways because Travis Kelce owes a lot to the Kansas City Chiefs too. A lot. A lot of his success is because of that organization, because of Andy Reid. And it's just decency, I think, to say, hey, we want you. We love you. We know you're 35 years old. We know you went on your podcast and said that it became treachery, essentially, to go to that facility every day when you're in the month of January and continue on the playoffs. He's played an extra season and a half over the last 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years, because of all the playoff games that he's played with the Chiefs. So it is a grind. He's playing more than anyone else. I understand all of that. Is it the right move for the Chiefs to give him a soft deadline? I think so, because of the situation they're in with the salary cap and his roster bonus. And I think Kelce's going to do the right thing, knowing that, look, the Chiefs owe him a lot. They've paid him a lot also. They'll have to pay him more if he doesn't make up his mind. It'll count against the salary cap. But also, Travis Kelce, I believe, owes the Chiefs as well. So all of these things can be true in the Kelce Chiefs saga. Will he or won't he? And I'm not just talking about proposing to Taylor Swift. I'm talking about continue with his career in the NFL. Time will tell. We'll find out. In fact, if the soft deadline holds, less than 1 month from now on March 13th. Kellen Moore, the last of the head coaching hires in the NFL, now the New Orleans Saints head coach. And he's very non-committal on what exactly to do with his quarterback, Derek Carr. Now, Derek Carr is set to make $51.4 million. That's his cap number, excuse me. He counts $51.4 million against the cap for the Saints if he is back next year. People think Derek Carr is washed. He's old. He's not particularly a winner. I understand some of that with Derek Carr. I think he's very middle of the line, very mid NFL quarterback. He's way better than the bottom part of the league, though. He's way better than possibly some of the rookie options you could have at that position as well. And Derek Carr was on fire before he broke his left hand, his non-throwing hand that ended his season this past year. 67% completion percentage. He was over 2,100 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a QB rating of over 100. If you remember, Saints got off to a great start. They started to tail off. Carr got hurt. Their season went down the hill, down the tubes quickly. But Carr was actually very, very good for the New Orleans Saints last year. So this is an interesting one to follow. For teams like the Titans, for teams like, not the Raiders, because we all know how that ended, but for other teams out there that could be in line for a temporary stopgap quarterback, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have been linked to Aaron Rodgers. Derek Carr, if you ask me right now, who do you think would be a better option for a year or two, just strictly from a quarterback playing standpoint, to give your team, if you've already got a good roster, a chance to win games? I would take Derek Carr over Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers still has a high upside. I don't think he was terrible this last year, but he looked old, and he is. He's going to be 42 when the next season starts. Derek Carr, he's not young, but he's younger. And Derek Carr, at least the start of this year, and I get that he got hurt, and that's a big part of the story also, he didn't look old. He looked very effective with the Saints to start this season. So Derek Carr could be a really good option for some team out there looking for that stopgap quarterback to maybe bridge the gap until they find their young franchise quarterback. Pittsburgh, the Titans, number of options there for Derek Carr if Kellen Moore doesn't decide to go with it. Now, Kellen Moore, I say non-committal. The press conference, he kind of gave the same answer about everything. Hey, and keep in mind, Kellen Moore's a 36-year-old head coach, youngest in the NFL. So he's around the same age as a Derek Carr. He's around the same age as some of the guys he's going to be coaching in New Orleans. He would be 6 years younger than Aaron Rodgers, let's say, if he was coaching him. But Kellen Moore kind of gave the same answer when asked about any player. Hey, I really am a big fan of this guy. I'm looking forward to getting in the building and working with them and talking things through with them, while also not saying Derek Carr is our quarterback and we stand with Derek. The city of New Orleans, we will eat beignets together and we will break beignets as our breaking of the bread, and we'll eat turtle soup or whatever the hell they do in New Orleans, and we will be together in New Orleans long term. Didn't say anything like that. Wouldn't expect him to. Kind of gave the standard. Look forward to talking to him. Look forward to sitting down with him. Kind of what Aaron Glenn said about Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. We all know how that story ended. Should the NFL change the rule on when players can enter the draft? Now, the talking point is around Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State. Let's start with him individually. Jeremiah Smith is an absolute stud. He is fully ready to catch passes in the NFL. Now, is he going to benefit from another 2 years of college football? Yes. And he's going to be even better by the time he's picked in the top 2 or 3 picks in the NFL draft by whatever team drafts him. He's ready. He's also one of a handful of players that you can really say that about. I'm not picking a ton of freshmen this year that I would say, hey, they're ready for the NFL. Jeremiah Smith is one of them. So there's a cry now. I know CBSSports.com has a write-up about this. A cry to change the rules to allow guys like Jeremiah Smith to get into the league quicker because it's a quote-unquote outdated rule. It might be, okay? The NBA stuff may have been outdated. Then they started allowing players straight out of high school. Then it was kind of the one-and-done thing, got to be 1 year removed. All of this may be outdated. Let me just point out this. Jeremiah Smith is generational, once every so often type of player. There are others out there, Adrian Peterson as a freshman. We've seen guys come into college football and just Ryan Williams at Alabama. There are guys who are no doubters, unbelievable talents that come in immediately and are stars in college football. Is it fair that they can't immediately go cash in and start their clock in the NFL? Probably not, but life isn't fair sometimes. Because the majority of people, they need that seasoning in college football. They need that distance from high school football to be really good pros in such a physical sport like the NFL, where you're going up against grown-ass men every single snap, every single day in practice, every single week in the NFL. You need that seasoning. And here's the other thing. It's mutually beneficial. It helps both sides. The NFL doesn't have nearly as many of high-dollar busts as, let's say, the NBA, because the NBA, you're taking a big chance. You get some guy from France or Australia, or some guy who averaged 8 points a game his 1 year at Villanova, or whatever you're drafting in the NBA, you're drafting on potential and not production, because you don't really know. You're looking at their age. You're looking at all the metrics around them. You're looking at potential talent for guys. NFL can draft on production also. You're drafting on potential, sure. But you can look at production because guys have more of a body of work. It helps NFL teams protect their investments better. It's been great for the National Football League. They don't want to change any of this. And college football, I'm a college guy. Love the NFL too. I'm a college guy first and foremost. It's great. I don't want one-and-done college football players. I want guys who are there for the long haul. I think it's helped college baseball, a sport I wasn't that into 5 years ago. I'm more and more into now, but they've long had it right. Either you go straight out of high school, and I'd be for that for football. Hey, if Jeremiah Smith or whoever's good enough to leave after a senior year of high school, go. No one's going to draft you. No one's going to believe that at 18 years old, but have at it. But when you go to college, you're committed for 3 years. I love the baseball rule for that reason. Guys can go play in the minors. You can go ride a bus from Duluth, Minnesota to Butte, Montana, all you want. You can go make chump change as a rookie ball, single A, double A player and get you a nice little signing bonus and go get drafted in the 14th round and go play pro baseball in the minors. You can go play college and you can make a little money in NIL if you're good enough. You can compete in front of more people on television. You can do all these things. Choices. It's great. You can go do that if you want, but once you go to college, it's a 3-year commitment. It's helped college baseball. The rule right now of the NFL helps both the NFL and helps the sustainability of college football. This is the minor league system for the NFL. They got the perfect setup. All they got to worry about is themselves, because college football does the grooming for them. They get the players ready to go. They're practicing them. They're making sure they're in the training room doing all these things. And then after 3 years of watching a guy at Ohio State or Tennessee or Texas or Washington compete in one of these great conferences against top-notch competition, then they can make their decision on who they want to draft. And typically, those decisions turn out a little bit better, and the investment isn't as risky as some other sports. So, no, I don't think they should change the rules for Jeremiah Smith or anyone else. Mark Pope of Kentucky seems like a smart guy. Certainly, he's a funny guy. We've had some fun on this show with Archie Miller, who made the mistake of claiming the SEC in basketball is not as good as everyone thinks they are because they have a 500 record in the SEC. This was something like 54-54 at the time. Well, 28 more games had been played at that point, and Carl Ravitch on ESPN made the same mistake, citing the SEC's record in the non-conference, but said, hey, it's not as good as everybody thinks because they're 82-82 since conference play began. Well, Mark Pope, Kentucky head basketball coach, decided to have a little fun with that.
Coach, everybody talks about the SEC being the best conference in college basketball, but the conference is just 500 since conference play started. What do you make of that?
I think it's been a really disappointing start to conference play. I feel like we should, I feel like we're not living up to the expectations, just being at 500 as a conference. And I just, I'm kind of looking around at the other programs in the league, but like, guys, we got to pick this up. This is embarrassing. And so we'll find a way. I believe in this league. I think we definitely have an upside. and we're going to work really hard to get there.
So great to see someone with a sense of humor. And this is the dog days of the college basketball season. But we're coming down the stretch. There's 6 games left for most SEC teams. At this point, 6 or 7 remaining in the season. And everyone's jockeying for NCAA tournament position, or the teams with even more stress on them are trying to get into the NCAA tournament, or teams that have had a rough season are trying to just play out the string and get done with it. And Mark Pope's got a good sense of humor about everything right now with the way he handled that. Also, sweet Letterman's jacket from Mark Pope. It's as if someone just handed that to him because he's got so many layers on. He's wearing the button-up. He's got the pullover, sort of the quarter zip action going. And then it's like someone draped, kind of like James Brown getting out of the hot tub, draped a Letterman's jacket, Kentucky Letterman's jacket over him as he went to that press conference. Sweet look from Mark Pope, whose team had been struggling, but they got the perfect antidote to their struggles because they played the Tennessee Volunteers, who they're now 2-0 against, with 2 of their biggest wins of the season. So they're riding high going into this weekend, going to Texas. Love Mark Pope for that reaction. Canadians are booing the national anthem once again. This was during the NHL's Four Nations face-off, which I watched some of this last night, and I watched Team USA beat Finland. And Nashville Predators goalie UC Soros was in net for Finland. It's enjoyable to watch some of this. It's such a manufactured, fabricated tournament and thing, but I am sort of enjoying it. But I don't really enjoy it when I watch our great Star Spangled Banner receive this treatment north of the border. So I'm not going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, okay? Because I had a lot of fun at the expense of Taylor Swift for getting booed at the Superdome, the Caesars Superdome this past Sunday night at the Super Bowl, okay? People can boo whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. I think it's funny that Philly fans decided to boo Taylor Swift. I'm fine with it. It's what Philly fans do. Now, this whole heel turn for Canadians, who have long been known as some of the friendliest people on the planet, very polite, very calm. A lot of comedy legends have come from Canada, and for a while we celebrate things Canadian. If you want to take a heel turn and you want to badmouth the U.S. because of a threat of tariffs or because you don't like our president or whatever, that's fine. I don't eat enough pancakes to care about your maple syrup one way or the other. So boo away, Canada. I don't give a shit about your country or about you booing the Star Spangled Banner. If that's enough to ruffle your feathers where you want to boo our national anthem, have at it, my friends, north of the border. Don't care. Because at some point you may become the 51st state also, especially if you're that much in debt and especially if this ruffles your feathers so much. But hey, we're in a free country in the U.S. You can boo what you want. I think you're in a free country in Canada. You can boo whatever you want. And if you want to boo the U.S., have at it. And guess what? When you come down south of the border and there's a majority of NHL teams that play in the United States as opposed to Canada, and you come into the rinks all across the U.S., if San Jose Sharks fans, well, that's a bad example. They're not going to boo Canada. If Dallas Stars fans or Florida Panthers fans want to boo Canadian teams when they sing "Oh Canada," terrific song, by the way. One of the best anthems. I put it right up there with the old USSR anthem that played during Rocky IV. 2 of the best anthems ever. I love "Oh Canada." But if you want to boo "Oh Canada," given the way they're disrespecting America's national anthem, have at it, Florida Panthers fans. Have at it, Dallas Stars fans. Don't care one bit, one way or the other. I find all of this funny, and I find this tournament to be somewhat funny because it's just fabricated. It's out of thin air. I know that a lot of things that are good were just at one point just fabricated out of thin air. But, you know, I'm kind of enjoying hockey for the first time in a while. And if you want to continue booing, maybe that's part of it. So boo away. And Americans, if you want to boo "Oh Canada," have at it. Boo "Oh Canada." I'm fine with it. So new topic on the show. What would you do? We got a couple of scenarios here that we are going to throw out with some video assistance. Now, This first video involves a train smashing an SUV in Utah. A lot of crazy stuff happens in Utah. Watch American Primeval on Netflix if you don't believe me. Train smashes into an SUV in Utah, and then a driver makes a run for it. Here we go. So the car has stopped on the train tracks, is now backing up over the train tracks. This train must come fast. Okay, here we go. He's nudging back up a little bit more. He stopped. We've got a blurry image getting out of the car. He just stopped on the train and decided not to keep going. Did his car die? He just stopped. So this was like, I feel like this is vandalism, just to stop there. So I feel I have to take this moment to tell a quick story. My father got hit by a train one time. I don't know if any form of inebriation was happening in the 1960s when this happened. I think everything is the statute of limitations is over for that. But he did try to beat a train one time, and he got clipped in the back of his car and got spun like a top. And it was a problem. Obviously the car was totaled. He was injured, but not too bad. Later went on to have me as a son. So I'm thankful he wasn't injured too much in that. And I believe he just got out of the car and walked away when that happened. So what would I do in this situation? I wouldn't have stopped in the middle. Okay, he just didn't want to brake. That's amazing. First off, it looks like he's got the clear go-ahead in front of him. I would have floored it to get over and not tried to back up. But then it's just a guy who panics. This is a guy who panicked. This is what happens. Now I see it more clearly exactly what happened. He panicked. He stopped. He didn't want to break the barrier that went down, so he stopped in the middle and ended up ruining everyone's day with that decision. A terrible decision at that. So just don't panic. That's what you do in that situation. Floor it, get over the train tracks, or go ahead and break the barrier and get behind the train tracks. Don't sit there, get out of your vehicle, and then cause that type of pileup when that happens. All right, the next one we have is a humpback whale swallowing a kayaker whole. This is like Jonah and the whale, I guess, and then spit him back out. We have video of this. Yeah, this is total nightmare fuel.
Hey.
Oh, then he's back out.
Tranquilo, agarra el bote, agárralo, tranquilo.
Do you think that whale just has a really tough gag reflex? And that's why he coughed him back up so quick? Because that was really quick. I don't know that he even got him fully down. This is not a Jonah situation in that it got caught like right on what the humans have is the hangy ball. It got caught there and then immediately spun back out. Well, we got another angle. Or this is them coming to rescue this guy. Here's what you do in this situation if that happens to you. You thank God that the whale didn't fully swallow you and that whale has a terrible gag reflex. That's what you're thankful for because he got out of that situation really quickly. It's almost like a rebound. It's a bounce off the backboard. Boom, and then boom. He's right back out. I'd like to interview this guy, though, and find out just how long. It must have felt like 2 days he was inside of that whale's mouth. That's what I'm guessing. It was probably a second and a half. Probably felt like a couple of days because of that. So every Friday, we're going to get into what I'm watching for the weekend, or what I'm currently watching right now. A little segment we call What's Withrow Watching? I've got 3 for you this week. I think I had 5 last week. I ranked the SNL specials that are out. By the way, SNL 50, Sunday night on NBC. I'll definitely be watching that. But I've got 3 for you right now that I'm paying attention to. One, number 3, we should start there. American Manhunt, O.J. Simpson on Netflix. I thought that every possible bit of info and every documentary and every dramatic series like the one on FX, and I thought everything had been said about O.J. Simpson and everything that went down. I was wrong. This one's got some new stuff that either I had forgotten or didn't even know about, and it is a terrific docuseries on Netflix. Now, I'm towards the end of part 1. I was talking to Brooke from our staff earlier today. She's seen all of it. Parts 2, 3, and 4 get a little bit more into the weeds of what we've already learned about O.J. Simpson, the case. Part 1 is really the night of the start of the investigation of the call to Nicole Brown Simpson's house. to the detectives and the steps they took, to media showing up when the sun came up the next morning to that Brentwood home, to on Bundy Street, all these different details that I'd either forgotten about or didn't know about to begin with. And I keep coming back to one giant thought about all this. I don't understand how anyone can see this stuff and still believe that O.J. Simpson did not do it. I mean, every bit of evidence. There are no other possible explanations than O.J. Simpson doing this. That's what I keep coming back to. But then I post it on Twitter, X, whatever, and I say, is there a single person that actually believes O.J. didn't do it? And I found one. Jadave Azul responds and says, his son Jason killed her. It is extremely easy to connect the dots if you try. And then he says, here's a pretty solid summary of the evidence against Jason. Now, the solid summary of evidence against Jason, the first thing I do when someone sends me a link to something, I look at where it's coming from. This is coming from something called yourtango.com. Jason, I've never gone to yourtango.com. Don't know what it is. I'm certainly not going to click on yourtango.com. One, I don't want a virus on my computer. Two, I don't think that they're the authority on OJ's son, Jason, or anything to do with that case to where they're going to know better than these documentaries, all the evidence, all the investigators, everyone who has combed through all of this. And just watch part one of this docuseries, and I'm telling you, it's impossible to argue. OJ absolutely did it. It's insane, the amount of evidence against him. It's insane, the amount of evidence that was not used in trial. Also, I was blown away by that as well. All right, number 2, Mythic Quest, a show on Apple TV+. 4th season just dropped recently. This was a show that I got into during the pandemic, during shutdowns. I think it dropped in February of 2020, right before everyone was sent home. And I love Rob McElhaney. I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love that style of writing, that style of comedy. So I saw his face on this show that was on Apple TV Plus at the time, a service I didn't spend a lot of time watching. And I watched it, and it's got some really good It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia vibes, if you like that. David Hornsby, one of the writers of It's Always Sunny, one of the comedic partners of Rob McElhaney. He's the co-star of this. You will know him if you watch It's Always Sunny as Cricket on It's Always Sunny, but he's got a starring role in this. He's hilarious. Really good show about a tech startup, video game company, and Rob McElhaney plays the eccentric founder of this company in this video game. F. Murray Abraham is terrific in the first couple of seasons. He's the narrative writer of the game. Really good, really sharp comedy. I do think in season 4, I feel like they've kind of done all the jokes before. Now they're doing them all again, is the feeling I get with this season. But it's still highly enjoyable. I highly recommend Mythic Quest on Apple TV+. Finally, in my Scandinavian corner, where I go all the time, I told you about this Norwegian World War II movie on Netflix that you need to check out. Now I'm going to tell you about a show called The Ara Murders. It's spelled A-R-E, the English word R, but the way it's pronounced in Swedish is something like Ara. Ara is an actual ski resort town in Sweden, and this show follows, it's based on a novel, a Swedish novel. I'll read you the log line of the show. A Stockholm detective under internal investigation heads to a ski resort to unwind until a young girl's disappearance compels her back to work. I read this and I'm like, okay, all the things that I love. Scandinavia, murders, detectives being drawn back into the hunt, and there's something going on personally in their lives where they had to take a leave, and now they're drawn into this case. The opening of the entire series is at like a high school EDM party at this ski resort where all this crazy stuff is happening, and then this girl disappears, and the parents have a weird relationship, and the town has a weird relationship with the high school, and there's a creepy high school teacher. I don't want to give too much of it away. Really, really good. I'll also say that if you're accustomed to American series, in America, we usually go at least 8 episodes to 12, 16 for a season. That's kind of the common drama arc right now. In England, in Sweden, all over Europe, they don't mess around with that. It's like 4, 5, 6 episodes, tops. This whole series is 5 episodes. The first 3 wrap up the first murder mystery. So you think the show is over after episode 3. There's a conclusion. You know who the killer is. You think everyone's going to be okay. And then it picks up in episode 4 and 5 with a completely different murder in this same town. And it kind of goes back into a different story months after the first story. I love it. I watched the English dubbed version. If you're a real psychopath, you can watch it in its native Swedish. I did that with the Norwegian World War II movie that I watched. I recommend it if you really like subtitles. I'm kind of watching this when I get sleepy at night, so I need the English dub version because if I'm reading the whole time, reading puts me to sleep, and I will fall right asleep. The Aura Murders on Netflix, my number one thing to watch. So number 3, American Manhunt, O.J. Simpson on Netflix. Number 2, Mythic Quest, Season 4 on Apple TV+. Number 1, The Aura Murders on Netflix. Swedish brilliance.